Todd going weird, though, is just something about weird Todd. I don't know. It's hitting. Something about weird Todd. It's working right now.
Hey, what's
up? No. Not you. You know who we need. Bring him out.
Oh, my bad. Alright, welcome to my finals Kenny Beats battle breakdown. Let's go. I had to drive like 7.5 hours up to New Jersey after the battle ended, and here we are. I originally made this on my PC, but I transferred it to my MacBook so that I could do this breakdown. Here's just the drums on their own. So for these drums, I actually use something I don't use all the time, which is drum rack. So what you can do with drum rack is you can drag in any sort of drum sample you want into this little pad down here, and then using a MIDI keyboard, you can play all of it together. And so this is what the MIDI looks like when you use drum rack. All the different keys are just different sounds that you can load onto them and then play them. So I started with just kick and clap. I actually used 2 kicks. Here's what that sounds like. From there, I added a shaker. After that, I added a little tambourine sample. And then I added this mechanical keyboard sound. You can hear that in the right ear. I then added this rando noise sample from Chris Keys. And lastly, I added this vocal sample, which comes from an acapella of a song by Sampha, Incomplete Kisses. And so this is what it sounds like leading up to the sample. Those incomplete kisses, weighing it down with that. And I took that last part. After playing all that in drum rack, I added these hi-hats outside of it. And then at the very end, I added these fat, kind of like super dark hi-hats. And for drum processing, I did something a little different. I started with just a glue compressor into Sketch Cassette 2, and then into a decapitator, into J37, and then another instance of Sketch Cassette. This one has some hiss added, and some more saturation and some wow and flutter. And finally, I have drum bus. I've learned a lot more about drum bus recently, mostly from a producer, Neighbor, who is extremely talented. It's just a good way to make your drums pop out. So now for the sample, I actually added the sample within this drum rack. Here's what that sounds like. That's pretty much the sample usage throughout most of it. Every once in a while, I also added this. And for this part of the sample, the way I got that fluttery sound was using RC20, and you can turn up flutter all the way to the right and turn the rate up, and it creates this fluttery effect. Moving on to the Rhodes that was in here. So this Rhodes is actually a sample. It's from Chris Keys also. It's from a Chris Keys pack. And so here's what that sounds like with the drums. So this Rhodes sample has a lot of movement in it, and I think that's mainly because of this Al Hug 80s chorus preset, and I think it has to do with this flux setting. So a lot of these parameters in RC20 are evolving as it goes. After the RC20, I took out some lows. I put RX 950 on it, and just a little OTT. I also have this Trackspacer here, but I'll talk about this when I get into the bass. In the second half, I took the sample and put it up 1 octave. And then I played some live bass. So this bass chain is pretty similar to what I usually do. We got our bass, the Kramer Pi compressor, little radiator, and then to give us some more punch just on the attacks, I took drum shaper and I turned up the attack knob. And so now let's talk about Trackspacer. So I have this Trackspacer plugin on the track that has the Rhodes. So what the Trackspacer is doing here is it takes the frequency curve of the bass and it carves that out in the sample, sort of like a side chain. So the blue shows the frequency spectrum of the bass, and then the white shows what's being carved out in the sample. It's a really great mixing plugin for getting rid of clashing frequencies. I added some high strings only in the second half. I also added this bell sample from Hybrid Keys. I added this other bell sample from Hybrid Keys, and I kind of drowned it in reverb and delay. I added this Senzu Bean effects from T-Watt. And that's got some delay and OTT on it. And then to transition from the first half to the second half, I put all these effects in. And then I also put this effect here just in the intro. And now for the leads. I played 2 leads mainly, so here's the first one. At the end of it, I automated some delay, so it only happens at the end. And on it, I put sketch cassette. I automated some vibrato, and I put Ableton amp on it. This was the second lead I played. I also automated a lot of vibrato here too. And for the end, I took the first lead that I played and I copy pasted it up 1 octave. There's this thing you can do in Operator. If you set it to 1 voice and then copy an octave above the lead you played, it'll occasionally glide up to the high note and it makes a really cool effect. And then at the very end, I had to add the duck sound. So this has kind of been a meme in my community. It says it's a beatbox perk, but it really just sounds like a duck. So at the very end of my time, I had to add that in there. And then for this intro, what I did was just record myself fumbling around with my drum kit, and this is what came of that. And then coughing at the end. For my master chain, I did most of the same things that I always do, with the one exception of putting Sketch Cassette 2 on the master.